This is a quiet space for listening. There is nothing you need to fix right now, nothing you need to understand completely. You can allow the voice to remain in the background. Many people notice that emotions feel stronger at night. Sadness feels deeper. Memories feel heavier. Loneliness feels more pronounced. Things that felt manageable during the day can suddenly feel overwhelming. This shift is not random. During daylight hours, attention is directed outward. There are tasks to complete, conversations to navigate, decisions to make. The mind remains occupied. Emotion is present, but it is layered beneath activity. At night, activity stops. The environment grows quiet. External demands disappear, and when the outside quiets, the inside becomes more noticeable. Emotion does not increase in quantity. It increases in visibility. What was muted by distraction becomes clearer in stillness. The nervous system also shifts at night. Energy lowers. Cognitive control softens. Analytical thinking decreases slightly. And when analysis decreases, emotion feels closer. There is less filtering, less immediate problem solving, more direct experience. This is why small thoughts can feel amplified. A memory that seemed insignificant at noon may feel meaningful at midnight. A minor regret may feel larger in darkness. The mind is not exaggerating reality. It is experiencing emotion without interference. Night removes the protective noise of the day, and in that silence, emotional tone becomes easier to sense. You may notice longing, reflection, uncertainty, or a subtle vulnerability that was not obvious earlier. This does not mean you are weaker at night. It means your system is quieter, and quiet makes internal signals clearer. The brain, sensing reduced external stimulation, turns inward. It reviews. It reflects. It processes. Emotional processing often requires stillness, and nighttime provides it. What feels like sudden sadness may simply be accumulated emotion finally becoming audible. Nothing new has been created, only revealed. There is also a biological rhythm influencing how emotions feel after dark. Human emotion is not constant throughout the day. It rises and falls in subtle patterns. Hormones shift. Energy levels fluctuate. Cognitive resources increase and decrease. During the evening, the brain begins preparing for rest. Cortisol, the hormone associated with alertness, gradually lowers. As alertness decreases, so does emotional buffering. During the day, higher alertness helps regulate reaction. It supports distance from feeling. It allows logic to step in quickly. At night, that buffer softens. With reduced cognitive control, emotion feels more direct, less filtered, more immediate. You may notice that thoughts feel less structured, less rational, more reflective. The mind moves toward memory and meaning rather than task and strategy. This shift is natural. The brain transitions from outward performance to inward integration. Integration often includes emotion. The events of the day are reviewed. Interactions are replayed. Subtle emotional impressions are processed. If something felt unresolved, it becomes more noticeable in stillness, and stillness is strongest at night. Another factor is physical fatigue. When the body is tired, emotional resilience lowers slightly. Fatigue reduces the energy required to suppress feeling. During the day, you may override sadness with productivity, override loneliness with conversation, override doubt with distraction. At night, that override function weakens, and what was suppressed gently resurfaces. This resurfacing can feel sudden, but it is often delayed processing. Emotion does not disappear when ignored. It waits. Night provides space for it to emerge. The brain, sensing fewer external demands, allows internal material to move forward. This is not dysfunction. It is timing. The timing of emotion does not always align with the timing of events. Sometimes feeling arrives hours later, when the system is quiet enough to experience it fully. You may also notice that nighttime emotion feels expansive, more connected to memory, more reflective, less focused on immediate solution. This happens because problem-solving networks are less dominant. Reflection networks are more active. Reflection invites feeling. Feeling invites meaning, and meaning often carries emotional depth. The dark room does not create sadness. It creates contrast. Contrast makes internal tone more visible. What was faint during daylight becomes clearer against quiet. This clarity can feel intense, but intensity does not mean something is wrong. It means the mind has space. Another reason emotions feel stronger at night is that nighttime reduces social input. During the day, your nervous system constantly receives signals from other people. Tone of voice, facial expression, movement, presence. These signals regulate emotion more than we realize. Human beings co-regulate. Simply being around others stabilizes internal states. Even small interactions provide feedback that you are connected, seen, and part of something larger than your thoughts. At night, that social input disappears. There is no external regulation, no subtle cues of reassurance. The environment becomes solitary. Solitude increases awareness of internal states. Without external reference points, feelings feel larger, more central, more immersive. Loneliness often intensifies at night for this reason, not because something changed, but because there is no counterbalance. Connection during the day acts like emotional scaffolding. It distributes weight. When scaffolding disappears, weight feels heavier. Night can amplify attachment-related emotions. Missing someone, regretting something unsaid, wondering how you were perceived. Attachment systems are sensitive to absence, and absence is more noticeable in silence. The brain is wired to monitor connection. When connection feels uncertain, emotion rises. During the day, busyness masks this sensitivity. At night it becomes clear. You may notice longing that did not seem present earlier, or vulnerability that feels more pronounced. This is not weakness. It is reduced distraction. The mind is no longer divided between multiple tasks. It can sense internal tone more directly. Emotion often needs stillness to be processed, and stillness is abundant after dark. The nervous system, no longer managing social performance, turns inward. It evaluates. It reflects. It searches for coherence. If something during the day felt misaligned, night time may be when that misalignment is felt fully, not exaggerated. Simply uninterrupted. This uninterrupted awareness can feel intense, but intensity does not always require action. Sometimes it requires acknowledgement. Night provides acknowledgement without interference. The room remains quiet. The body remains still, and internal emotion becomes easier to hear, not louder, just clearer. There is also an evolutionary reason why nighttime emotion can feel heightened. For most of human history, night carried uncertainty. Darkness reduced visibility. It increased vulnerability. The nervous system learned to treat low light as a subtle risk environment. Even though modern spaces are safe, that ancient wiring still exists. When the lights dim and the environment quiets, vigilance increases slightly, not dramatically, just enough to sharpen internal awareness. Sharpened awareness makes emotional signals more noticeable. What felt neutral in daylight may feel significant in darkness. The brain scans for unresolved tension. It asks whether something requires attention, because historically unattended problems could carry consequences. This scanning function becomes more active when external stimulation decreases. In the absence of movement, the mind searches internally. It looks for unfinished emotional material. It reviews interactions. It evaluates tone. It questions interpretation. This does not mean your mind is looking for problems. It means it is designed to monitor stability. Night feels like a transition point, and transitions often trigger reflection. The day has ended. There is a pause before tomorrow begins. In that pause, the mind attempts to integrate experience. Integration often includes feeling. Feeling requires awareness, and awareness feels stronger when the world is quiet. You may notice that nighttime emotions feel more global, less tied to a single event, more connected to meaning. That happens because reflection networks are dominant. Reflection connects present feeling to memory. Memory connects to identity. Identity connects to belonging. Belonging connects to safety. These layers can surface gently when the environment slows down. Fatigue also contributes to this shift. When cognitive resources are lower, emotion is less filtered. There is less energy available to reinterpret feeling, less energy to distract from it. This is not a flaw. It is a natural rhythm. The body and mind move through different modes across the day. Night is the mode of inward processing. Inward processing includes emotion, and emotion, when uninterrupted, can feel deeper. But depth does not mean danger. It means attention has turned inward, and inward attention makes feeling clearer. As the day ends, the brain begins organizing experience. Not only events, but emotional tone. The mind does not simply record what happened. It encodes how it felt. Throughout the day, many emotions are experienced briefly and then set aside. A small disappointment, a subtle embarrassment, a moment of uncertainty, a passing wave of longing. None of these require immediate action, so they are postponed. Nighttime is when postponed feeling often returns. The brain, preparing for sleep, begins sorting memory. It strengthens what feels important. It loosens what feels neutral. Emotion signals importance. The stronger the emotion, the more likely it is to resurface during quiet reflection. This resurfacing is part of integration. Integration helps the mind build coherence. It asks, what did today mean? What needs attention? What remains unresolved? Sometimes the answer is clear. Sometimes it is only emotional. You may not consciously know what triggered the feeling. You may simply notice heaviness or sensitivity or unexpected sadness. This does not mean something dramatic occurred. It may mean subtle emotional impressions accumulated. During active hours, those impressions were layered beneath productivity. At night, productivity pauses. Layered impressions become visible. Memory consolidation also plays a role. The brain reactivates emotional memories as part of organizing them. Reactivation can temporarily amplify feeling, not to intensify suffering, but to file experience properly. Emotion is a marker. It tells the brain which memories matter. If a memory carries emotional tone, it may briefly feel stronger before settling. This can make nighttime reflection feel disproportionate, but it is often part of natural processing. The mind is not trying to overwhelm you. It is trying to make sense of experience, and making sense requires contact with feeling. When there is no conversation happening, no performance required, no distraction available, feeling becomes clearer. Clearer does not mean larger. It means uninterrupted. The quiet room creates space for that interruption to disappear. And in that uninterrupted space, emotion becomes more noticeable, not because it grew, but because nothing is covering it. There is also a subtle shift in nervous system balance that happens as evening progresses. During the day, the sympathetic system, the part responsible for action and response, is more active. It supports movement, decision-making, problem-solving, even mild stress. At night, the parasympathetic system begins to take over. This system supports rest, digestion, and recovery. When the body transitions toward this calmer state, emotional awareness can increase. Calm does not always feel neutral. Sometimes calm reveals what activation was masking. When the body slows, suppressed feeling has more room to surface. You may notice a sense of openness that was not present earlier, a sensitivity, a softness. These qualities are not weakness. They are signs that defensive alertness is lowering. Defensive alertness often keeps emotion contained. When it lowers, containment loosens. Emotion moves more freely. This can feel overwhelming if you are not expecting it, but it is often a sign that the system is safe enough to feel. Throughout the day, your body may hold micro-tensions, small contractions in the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach. These tensions subtly suppress emotion. When you lie down and those muscles release, emotional tone may rise slightly. The release of tension allows sensation to move, and sensation is closely linked to feeling. At night, you are not required to perform, not required to respond quickly, not required to manage impressions. Performance fatigue can drop, and beneath performance is vulnerability. Vulnerability feels stronger in stillness. Without tasks to anchor attention, internal states feel expansive. Expansive feelings can seem intense, but intensity often reflects exposure rather than escalation. You are simply more in contact with yourself. The nervous system shifting toward rest allows deeper access to emotional material. If something was unresolved, it may surface. If something was meaningful, it may return. If something was painful, it may feel more tender. This tenderness is part of unwinding. The system loosens its grip, and in that loosening, emotion becomes easier to sense. Night does not create new emotion. It creates space for emotion to breathe. And when emotion breathes, it feels alive. Night also changes how you relate to yourself. During the day, your attention is divided between many roles. You are responding, adjusting, interacting, completing tasks. There is little time to evaluate how those roles feel internally. When night arrives, roles fade. There is no audience, no expectation to perform, no immediate feedback loop. And without those external anchors, attention turns inward. Inward attention often brings self-evaluation. You may notice questions emerging quietly. Did I handle that well? Did I say too much? Did I say too little? Was I understood? These thoughts are not always loud, but they carry emotional tone. The brain is sensitive to social belonging. Belonging signals safety. If belonging feels uncertain, even slightly, emotion follows. At night, without distraction, that sensitivity becomes clearer. You may replay moments not because they were dramatic, but because they felt incomplete. Incomplete social experiences linger. The mind searches for coherence. It wants to feel aligned with your values, aligned with your identity, aligned with how you wish to be perceived. This alignment process often happens in quiet reflection, and reflection tends to carry feeling. You may feel regret that did not surface earlier, or longing that was muted by activity, or pride that feels deeper in stillness. Emotion expands when there is room for it. Night provides that room. There is also a subtle reduction in external comparison. During the day, your mind is outward focused. At night, comparison turns inward. You evaluate yourself against your own expectations. Self-reflection can intensify feeling, not because you are flawed, but because you are attentive. Attention amplifies awareness, and awareness, when uninterrupted, feels powerful. The darkness around you reduces visual stimulation. Without visual input, internal imagery becomes stronger. Memory becomes more vivid. Emotion attaches to memory more clearly. This is why nighttime reflection can feel layered. One memory connects to another. One feeling links to an older one. The mind builds emotional continuity. Continuity gives identity shape, but identity work carries vulnerability. Vulnerability feels more present when the world is quiet, not dangerous, just present. And presence, when unbuffered, feels deep. There is also a rhythm to loneliness that follows the day. During daylight hours, the world feels active. Even if you are alone, there is movement outside. Messages arrive. Notifications appear. Voices can be heard in the distance. These signals create a sense of shared time. At night, shared time fades. The world grows quiet. Lights turn off. Communication slows. This quiet can create a subtle sense of isolation. Isolation does not have to be dramatic to be felt. It can be gentle, almost invisible, but noticeable enough to shift emotional tone. Humans are wired for synchrony. We feel safer when others are active around us. When activity reduces, the nervous system becomes more inwardly focused. Inward focus can magnify emotion. You may notice longing more clearly, or the absence of someone more distinctly, or a subtle ache that did not surface earlier. This does not mean something new has emerged. It means environmental stimulation has decreased. The brain interprets darkness and silence differently than light and sound. Even artificial lighting does not fully override this ancient pattern. Darkness slows the pace of perception. Slowed perception increases depth. Depth increases emotional access. Circadian rhythms also influence mood regulation. As melatonin rises and alertness decreases, cognitive flexibility lowers slightly. Lower cognitive flexibility makes it harder to reframe emotion quickly. During the day, you might reinterpret a thought easily. At night, that reinterpretation requires more effort. An effort feels heavier when the body is tired. Fatigue makes feelings feel closer. Closer means more immediate. More immediate can feel more intense. The mind may drift toward themes of meaning at night. Questions about purpose, connection, regret, hope. These themes carry emotional weight. Weight feels heavier when there is no competing noise. The brain does not amplify sadness intentionally. It simply removes distraction. And when distraction disappears, underlying tone becomes audible. You may also notice that nighttime emotion feels slower, less sharp, more expansive. It spreads across thoughts, connects to older memories, creates patterns. Pattern recognition is natural when the mind is quiet. The mind looks for continuity. Continuity often carries feeling, and feeling in stillness feels deep. As the day ends, cognitive energy lowers. Decision-making becomes slower. Focus becomes softer. This reduction in cognitive strength affects emotional filtering. During the day, your brain constantly evaluates information and dismisses what is not immediately useful. At night, that filtering process weakens slightly. When filtering weakens, more thoughts pass through, including emotional ones. There is also a well-known tendency in the brain toward negative bias. The mind naturally gives more attention to potential problems than neutral experiences. This bias exists to protect you. It prioritizes what might require action. When cognitive control is strong, negative bias can be balanced by reasoning. At night, reasoning is slower. Fatigue reduces the energy needed to counterbalance negative interpretation. So thoughts may lean slightly heavier. A small mistake may feel larger. An uncertain outcome may feel more threatening. A memory may feel more regretful. This does not mean you are becoming more negative. It means the counterweight is weaker. The brain at night is less interested in productivity and more interested in safety. Safety requires scanning for what could go wrong. This scanning function becomes noticeable in stillness. During the day, scanning happens quietly in the background. At night, it moves into the foreground. You may notice that certain thoughts repeat, not because they are catastrophic, but because they carry unresolved emotional tone. The brain revisits what feels incomplete. Completion signals safety. Unresolved emotion signals unfinished processing. Fatigue can also reduce perspective. Perspective requires mental distance. Distance requires cognitive effort. At night, effort feels heavier, so thoughts may feel closer than they truly are. Closer thoughts feel more emotional. Emotion does not necessarily increase. Distance decreases, and reduced distance intensifies feeling. The darkness of the room adds to this perception. Limited visual input narrows sensory grounding. When sensory grounding reduces, internal imagery becomes more vivid. Vivid imagery strengthens emotion. The mind is not intentionally magnifying distress. It is operating with reduced resources. and increased inward focus. This combination can make nighttime feel emotionally heavier than the day. But this heaviness often reflects vulnerability, not danger. Vulnerability simply means the system is less armored, less defended, more open. And openness makes feeling easier to access. By the time night fully settles, many small factors have aligned. Lower light, reduced stimulation, physical fatigue, less social input, slower cognitive control. None of these alone create emotional intensity, but together they change the internal landscape. The mind moved from outward navigation to inward awareness. Outward navigation requires structure. Inward awareness allows feeling. During the day, emotion often competes with urgency. At night, urgency fades. Without urgency, emotion has more space. Space can feel like expansion. Expansion can feel like depth. You may notice that nighttime emotion feels layered. One feeling connects to another. A memory links to an earlier one. A current worry blends with an older fear. This layering is not escalation. It is integration. The brain is weaving threads together. It is asking how experiences connect. Connection creates coherence. Coherence creates identity. Identity carries emotional tone. In darkness, these threads are easier to sense. There is less interruption, less noise, less fragmentation. Emotion moves more slowly at night. But slowness does not mean weakness. It means attention has narrowed. Attention intensifies whatever it touches. If attention rests on sadness, sadness feels deeper. If attention rests on longing, longing feels more vivid. If attention rests on gratitude, even gratitude can feel heavier. Night does not prefer negative emotion. It prefers clarity. Clarity sometimes reveals what daylight blurred. When the body is horizontal and the environment is still, internal states feel closer. There is no performance required, no immediate solution demanded, just awareness, and awareness, when uninterrupted, can feel powerful. You may notice that emotions at night feel honest, unfiltered, direct. This honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it can also be gentle, because beneath the intensity is stillness. Beneath the vulnerability is safety. The room is quiet. The body is supported. Nothing is happening externally. Emotion may move through you, but it is not urgent. It is simply present, and presence, when allowed, begins to soften on its own. As emotion becomes clearer in the quiet, it often begins to slow on its own. Intensity rarely stays constant. It rises, it peaks, then it settles. Night simply makes that rise more noticeable, but it also allows the settling to happen. When there is no interruption, emotion completes its cycle more naturally. You may notice that after a wave of feeling, there is a pause, a space, a slight easing in the body. Breathing softens. Muscles release. The mind grows less focused on meaning. What felt overwhelming minutes ago begins to feel more distant. Not solved, just quieter. This is the nervous system recalibrating. It does not require force. It responds to safety. And safety is present here. The room is still. Nothing is demanding action. Nothing is threatening. Emotion moves differently when it is not resisted. If sadness is not pushed away, it often becomes softer. If longing is not judged, it often becomes gentler. Night allows this softening because there is less external pressure. There is no audience evaluating your feeling, no immediate task competing for attention, just space. Space gives emotion room to breathe, and breathing changes intensity. You may notice that thoughts connected to the feeling grow shorter, less detailed, less convincing. The mind no longer needs to explain everything. It begins allowing sensation without narrative. Sensation without narrative is lighter. It moves through the body more quickly. The earlier layers of explanation begin to fade. What remains is simpler. A tone, a texture, a subtle awareness. This awareness does not demand action. It does not require correction. It simply exists, and as it exists, it shifts, gently, quietly, naturally. Emotion now feels slower, less layered, less complex. What earlier felt expansive begins to narrow, not into tension, into simplicity. The mind no longer searches for meaning. It no longer connects every feeling to memory. It allows sensation without analysis. Breathing remains steady. The body feels heavier against stillness. There is no urgency to understand, no pressure to resolve. Thoughts that appear are softer. They do not build into long reflections. They arrive, then fade. Emotion becomes less narrative, more physical, a warmth in the chest, a softness in the stomach, a slight heaviness behind the eyes. These sensations move gently, without force, without resistance. The nervous system continues settling, not because emotion disappeared, but because it has been felt. Feeling reduces intensity. Suppression maintains it. Night allows feeling to complete its arc, and once that arc is complete, quiet deepens. You may notice longer pauses between thoughts, longer stretches of stillness. Awareness feels wider now, less attached to specific stories, less drawn toward specific memories. The room remains quiet. The body remains supported. Nothing is asking for interpretation. Nothing is asking for action. Emotion softens further, not dramatically, just gradually, and gradual softening is enough. Emotion is quieter now. It no longer expands outward. It rests more gently. Thought appears, but it does not continue for long. There is less narrative, less meaning attached. The body feels steady, supported. Breathing remains slow, even unforced. There is no need to evaluate what you are feeling, no need to measure it. Emotion can exist without explanation, and when it exists without explanation, it softens. The mind is no longer searching for patterns. It is no longer connecting every feeling to memory. It allows sensation to rise and fall, rise and fall. The room is still. The darkness feels neutral, not heavy, not urgent, just present. Awareness widens slightly, less focused on specific thoughts, more diffuse, more open. What remains of emotion feels simple, a tone, a softness, nothing dramatic, nothing pressing, just quiet presence. And quiet presence feels easier to remain with. Emotion continues to settle. It no longer stretches across memory. It stays close, simple, light. Thought appears briefly, then fades. There is no effort to follow it. No need to continue the story. Breathing remains slow, steady, unnoticed. The body feels heavier now, supported by stillness. Nothing is being evaluated. Nothing is being prepared. Uncertainty rests quietly. It does not press. It does not demand. Awareness feels soft, unstructured, less focused. There is space between thoughts, longer space. Emotion feels neutral, almost transparent. The earlier intensity has thinned, not forced away, just completed. The room remains quiet. The darkness feels calm. Nothing is happening. Nothing needs to happen. Only stillness remains, gentle, stable, present, and softening further. Emotion is faint now. It does not gather. It does not spread. Thought flickers, then disappears. There is no need to respond, no need to interpret. The body rests. Breathing moves quietly, even, slow. Nothing asks for attention. Nothing feels urgent. Uncertainty is light, barely noticeable. Awareness feels wider, less attached, less involved. Fragments appear, then dissolve before meaning forms. Emotion has thinned, almost transparent. The room remains still. The darkness feels neutral. There is nothing to solve, nothing to complete, only quiet, soft, unbroken, and continuing to settle. Nothing gathers now, no expansion, no layering. Thought appears lightly, then fades. There is no continuation, no response. The body rests fully. Breathing is slow, even, unnoticed. Emotion is distant, barely present. Uncertainty is quiet, without edge. Awareness feels thin, open, unfocused. Nothing asks to be understood. Nothing asks to be solved. Fragments dissolve immediately. Imagination does not form. Stillness remains. Soft, steady, simple. Nothing to prepare, nothing to revise, only quiet and gentle settling. Nothing forms, no expansion, no reflection. Thought flickers, then fades. There is no need to follow, no need to continue. The body is still. Breathing is soft, unnoticed. Emotion is quiet, almost absent. Uncertainty rests, neutral, light. Awareness feels thin, open, uninvolved. Nothing begins. Nothing continues, only stillness, gentle, steady, unbroken, and softening further. Nothing gathers, no reflection, no layering. Thought fades before forming. There is no continuation. The body rests. Breathing moves gently, slow, even. Emotion is distant, almost transparent. Uncertainty is quiet, without weight. Awareness is light, diffuse, unfocused. Nothing requires attention. Nothing asks to be solved. Only stillness, soft, stable, open, and thinning. Nothing forms now. No thought gathering. No reflection. Breathing continues. Soft, even. The body rests. Fully. Emotion is absent. Uncertainty is neutral. Awareness is thin, open, uninvolved. Nothing begins. Nothing continues. only quiet, steady, unchanging, nothing to prepare, nothing to solve, only stillness and softness. There is no movement now, no reflection, no thought forming. Breathing continues, slow, even, unnoticed. The body rests completely. Emotion has settled. Uncertainty has softened. Awareness is light, open, still. Nothing needs attention. Nothing requires meaning. Nothing remains unfinished. Only quiet, soft, stable, unbroken, and complete.